morning, down Lee Jackson's Cotton Farm Syndicate down at Dartford. Just finished my night shift. Come down here with Lee, do a bit of filming, talk about a recent trip to Cassien. I've had the rods out down here now for about half hour. We're getting a bite time, so hopefully try and get a bite on camera for you. Yeah, 7th of April I think I flew out to Cassien this year. My third time out there. Fell in love with the place the first time I went. I went out there with Roy and Obi, fished for a week. I didn't have anything, but on the last day Roy had a 40-pounder, which was stunning. It's not a big fish by today's standards, but it's a Cassien 40. It trumps everything else, so I just knew I was going to spend a lot more time there. This year I decided to go earlier than normal. Usually I do the autumn or the summer. I wanted a big fish from Cassien, and a 50+ fish basically. I decided to go early. I knew it would be a bit more difficult than it was in the summer. So I flew out there. I was fishing with Dave Iron at Cassien. He runs Cassien Carp tours. I was fishing with him for the week. Got out there, as soon as we got out there, the weather, it was high pressure, 14-15 degrees in the day and absolutely freezing at night. Not the best conditions, but we gave it a go. First day we boated out there, we see one straight away. As soon as we pulled the boat up, bosh, one's jumped out right behind the boat. Happy days. Started setting the rods up, another one's gone, jumped straight over. I was like, this is alright, this is going to happen. That was the only 2 fish I see for the first 7 days of the trip. Cassien split into 3 arms, the North Arm, South Arm and West Arm. Springtime, West Arm is shut from Ellis Point all the way over to the Avron Slipway. Basically what the fish do, they all want to go in the West Arm to spawn. They spawn a lot earlier in Cassien than they do in this country. Sort of end of March all the way through April. Generally they're going into the West Arm spawning, having a spawn, travelling out again. It's about 2 kilometres along the West Arm, so it's a big old bit of water. They're travelling out, having a feed, going back and spawning. So the idea is to get in the first 3 swims, so sort of trap them on the way in and out, if you like. When we got out there, I found out there was a company doing filming out there, which put a big spanner in the works. So I couldn't get within probably 3 kilometres of them fish. I knew they was in there because this company put a drone up, and they showed me the footage. It was like 1,500 carp just sat in there. And I think the main trouble we had this trip was the weather. They wanted to spawn, they was in there, but the nighttime temperatures just wasn't high enough, so they were just in limbo land. They were sat in there, they wouldn't spawn, so therefore they wouldn't come out and they wouldn't feed. So we plugged away. I think it was day 8, I got the phone call that the lads doing the filming were going. One of them gave me the heads up, so straight away jumped in the swim. That was my first bit of luck on that trip. The second bit of luck that I had, I think, thinking about it now, is overnight they dropped the water by about 4 or 5 foot. They take water out of Cassien to power Italy. It's a way of using the power for Italy. So with the drop in water, I think it pushed a few fish out of the West Arm, which is only 5-6 foot maximum where they want to spawn. So I think that pushed a few fish out for me. So I think day 8, I got into Ellis Point, where I wanted to be. I knew where I wanted to fish, along right across to the opposite margin. The first day I got in there, just found me spots, knew that I'd now have to fish the full day, so it means like getting on the lake for 5 o'clock in the morning, fishing till about 9 o'clock at night, just to make sure nobody actually gets into the swim. So the first day, I baited up the spots I was going to do. I wouldn't usually put a lot of bait out in the spring, but because of the drop in the water, I thought them fish are going to come out, there's a good chance they're going to be hungry. So I baited up with, not a lot of bait, but a Cassien standards, probably 2 or 3 kilo on each rod, a couple of kilo of tiger nuts. So I got there the second morning on Ellis Point, boated them back out there. Mist was still just coming off the lake, it looked real good. Nothing happened at all. Because I was boating across to where the canoes and etc. come on, I couldn't really leave it over there in the day. So I left it till about 9 o'clock till I heard the canoers come in. Wound it in, it's a long way, it's probably 200-300 yards across. Wound it in. Just as I got it on the bank, bosh, one's thrown itself straight up over the spot. It's like, at that point, I sat down for a minute, then another one's gone straight over the bait. It's like, you can't believe it. You've been sat all that time, wound it in, and toe fish, so boated it all the way back over there, dropped it down. What I had to do was put big rocks on the line just to pin all the braid on the floor all the way down to the spot. Not ideal because of the amount of snags that your braid's going across, but with a rock, as soon as it gets it, it'll pull up, the braid will float up when it's away. The whole of the day was pretty uneventful after seeing them two fish. I didn't see nothing else at all. Spent the day just sleeping, basically, you know, catch as much sleep up as you can, ready for bite time. I think it was about 6 o'clock. I woke up and my right hand rod was absolutely melting. It was the one that was pinned down, it was one right over the other side. The canoers were still out, but it was absolutely roaring off. Like, when you get a bite of Cassien, all the panic sets in. You're sitting there for days and days, nothing happens. Especially when you're on your own, you've got to get hold of the rod, clamber down the bank, proper steep mountain bank, get into the boat, and then try and spin the boat round with the weight of the fish, because you can't put the engine down because it's too shallow where the water had been dropping so much. So I managed to do all that. The fish is peeling line off, got in the boat, spun it round, got halfway out there. I remember thinking everything's going perfect. The fish is pulling me right out to the middle of the lake. The fish is out in the deep water now. Stuck the fish finder on. It's in 50 foot of water, which is perfect, no snags. And then bang, it's come off. And I wound it in, and for some reason, I still don't know why, but that lead didn't come off. And it's never happened to me before. We're using 8-ounce leads. You need the lead to come off. For some reason, it didn't come off. Absolutely devastated. You know, I've been waiting all that time for the bite, and then that happens. And at that point, I felt like giving up. I think I rang Rob, Craig, I rang a few others, spoke to them, I was all down. Rob especially was telling me, look, you're going to get another chance, get it back together, get it out there. I didn't get it back out there that day. I just sat down and drank a load of Kronenberg, like you do. I wound in about, I don't know, 8:30, a bit earlier that night. Went back to the spots. I thought I'll let them have some proper bait this time. I think I'll give them 5 kilo on each spot of CT, a bit of banoffee, and about the same in tiger nuts, just all over the area. It was a lovely the banks are steep, it was going down, it was like 40 foot all round it, but this bit was 20 foot. It just shelved down 20 foot, nice sandy bottom, let them have a load of tigers. Went back to Cassien Central, as we call it. Drunk a few more cans with Dave, set the alarm. I think I was back up at 4 o'clock that morning, back on the lake for 5, just to make sure I got in the spot basically. When we was loading the boat up at the wrap, I heard one. Because of the mountains and it's so quiet, they echo, so I wasn't 100% sure where it was, but I definitely heard a fish go over, so load the boat up. It was one of them magical mornings, all the mist was coming down through the mountains, it was like weaving its way through the lake. I managed to get out there. I had real difficulty getting the bait back on the spot. It was the fish finders on to find the spot, but it was so misty, it was trouble to find me markers on the far bank. Finally I found it. I remember that morning, the fish find, you don't take much notice of the fish on the fish finder, but that morning the whole screen was lit up with fish on the spot. Generally they're not fish, but that many, it had to be something. There's thousands of bream and hybrid in there, so it's probably them, but it gives you a little bit more confidence. Got the rods back out, got back to the bank, straight away dropped back, so bream. That happened 3 times in an hour. I found a little tiny little bream, you know, it's so big, found up to me, it's big effort. You've got to get back in the boat, all the way back over there to the spot, and get it back in there. Done it all, put it back out there. I changed the hook bait from a CT, I was using 20mm hard hookers, to a big one. I think it was about 40mm hard hooker, which Dave Yime gave to me, that Craig made last time that it was over there. Put one of them on just to try and stop it. As the mist started lifting, I sat down with a cup of tea, just sat on the rock looking over to the spot, and I just see this great big head come straight out the drink. It's like, that's close. You know, I'm fishing probably 300 yards. That's close to the spot. Just before then, a couple of German anglers had turned up, so obviously you want to keep things as quiet as possible. So I walked down to the rods, turned all the buzzers off. Just as I sat on the rock, the right hand rod, bang, it's absolutely tearing off. It's like, all right, this is my chance now. This is it. Straight, rod pointing straight at the fish. It's just ripping line off, slowly down the bank into the boat. Spun the boat round, and we're just pumping out to it. It stopped taking line. It probably took about 50 yards, and then it stopped, and it just was a slow weight coming back all the time. There was one point in the fight I thought the fish had actually come off, and I was just attached to a log or something. He was doing nothing at all. I was slowly pulling myself out there with the boat. Got the net in position. Then I got the leader knot come up, and then it started having a bit. As always, the leader knot was right in the tip ring. It wouldn't. I just wanted to get the leader knot on the reel for my own peace of mind. I know it's fine, but I just needed to get that leader knot. I finally got the leader on the reel, and then proper give it some. You're only using 10-foot rods, proper give it some. Leaders come up, then the other leader, the safe zone leaders come up the net, and then I see it. You're just coming straight up like dead weight. And I know from boats, experience on boats before, you need to get that fish in the net first time. That's your chance. If you don't get it first time, they generally start playing up and start fighting and spinning you about in the boat. Net in the water, bang, straight in there first time. That feeling when that fish hit the net, I could see straight away it was a big one. To be honest, I thought it was a bit bigger than what it was. I turned my buzzers off to be quiet from the Germans, but I couldn't help it. I was screaming in the mist, in the middle of Cassien. The Germans must have thought I was absolutely crazy. But I knew at that point I'd done it. I'd done what I come out to do. Like, got the fish back to the bank. I think if I remember right, it was maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, I just secured it to the boat, straight back, cracked open the Kronenberg, and just sat there for a minute, taking it all in, mist rolling round the lake. And I thought, yeah, I've done it. It's in there. I've got it. Started phoning people up straight away. I just couldn't help it. I think I phoned a few people up, woke them up. Craig, Rob, Lee. You know, I woke a few people up. Finally got it out, weighed it, 55 pound. Absolutely made up. It's the fish that I wanted. It's one I've been trying so hard. I really did try hard that holiday to get that fish. Phoned Dave behind me, come and done the photos and a bit of filming. Put it back, and I think that was it for the day. I didn't bother staying anymore. I was tired. I was doing long hours, maybe 18 hours on the bank, a few hours sleep. Went back, Cassien Central, had some lunch, had a bit of sleep, and then hit the beers proper good that night with Dave. Yeah, I think the next trip I've got out there now is July. I'm going out with Craig for another 10 days. Completely different in July. We'll be taking a lot of bait, you know. I think we use 40-50 kilo of bait a day to hold them in the area. There we go, day 8 here at Cassien with Dave. It's been a hard week. I think it's 8th day now. 55 pound mirror this morning just on first light. We fished last night till 10 o'clock. Back up on the lake for 5. This one roared off about half hour later. A2 Ardukas again over a bed of Tigers and CT. Happy days. Let's get it back. Alright, sweet.